Hey friends, this is Lindsay with A Heart for All Students, and what's happening in the church culture today and in the culture at large is that when children don't respond to that traditional approach to parenting and education, mom feels like a failure. Mom starts to resent her child. The dynamics between parent and child become more and more destroyed. These kids receive messages that tell them they're not good enough because everything they do is wrong, because they don't respond in the traditional way. And so if you are looking for support, encouragement, please come and join us. I am a Christian, so I have a very faith-driven perspective. Everybody is welcome. And each week, the ladies are in there and we chat and we kind of tease through some of the tough, messier parts of parenting. And we also have a lot of fun in there. So that's in Facebook. You can search for A Heart for All Students private group, and I am in there waiting for you. But today I want to answer a question that one of my girlfriends in the group asked me yesterday. She is a mom whose child is in traditional public school. And so a lot of these teachers are doing everything they can to come up with a plan, a way to educate all of these children who they traditionally would never be doing distance learning with. These kids would be in traditional school. So these teachers, they are doing the best they can. But this mom was very concerned because her child is an older child, middle school, but he has a slower processing speed. So when I talk about slower processing speed, I'm talking about the kid that takes forever to do 10 math problems. And they know how to do them. You might ask them a question and it takes a long time for them to answer. They have a slower processing speed. Now, this does not mean that they are less than. In fact, they're probably gifted in some other area of the brain and some other area that is going to take them so far in this world. However, they have a slower processing speed, okay? Even if your child doesn't have a slower processing speed, this general principle that I'm about to share with you right now applies. Her question was, the teacher's telling me that I need to have my child do all the problems, all the math problems, but let's just pretend it's math, all the math problems. But the problem is, mom says, is if he does all the math problems, then he is going to be spending his entire day doing schoolwork, and there is no time for family time and for relationship building and for him to pursue other things that are important and that are part of who he is. And so her question was really about how long is too long? How long is appropriate, and how much repetition do we need in order for a child to receive and process information and be able to retrieve it later to be used? That's the goal of education, of learning anything. The goal is for our children to be able to receive, process the information, take it in from short-term memory into long-term memory, and then be able to eventually retrieve it again and be able to apply it wherever it needs to be applied. That's the goal. The goal of true education is not accomplish 50 math problems. Now, if the goal is how many math problems can you do in, 5 minutes, fine. But really, in the grand scheme of things, doing 50 math problems in a certain amount of time, no, that's not the goal. The goal is learn the skill, have it go from short-term working memory to long-term memory, and be able to retrieve it and process it and use it in the way that it needs to be applied next. So, her child has slower processing speed. My perspective, my principle will always be the same. Small chunks of intentional teaching done well without stress over time will yield the fruit that we want it to yield. If the child is so overwhelmed because the concept is new and they're learning it, they just automatically shut down. They're not willfully shutting down. So for her child, this is the principle. You choose to give him that which he is emotionally and mentally able to process, receive, and then later retrieve. So I would much rather a child spend 10 minutes working on 5 math problems that are more challenging, that he is just learning. Do them well, do them correctly, without stress for 10 minutes in the morning. And then tomorrow do the same thing. Or before dinner, for 5 minutes, do one more math problem. Same concept, one more math problem. And do them well, because then your child will actually receive, be able to process the information. The fight or flight part of the brain shuts down. The prefrontal cortex, which is the executive functioning part of the brain, it's a lot of terms, all that to say, the part of the brain that is able to receive and process information is available when we take away the barriers of, you will have to sit here for the next 5 hours, because that's what everybody says you're supposed to be able to do. We need to teach the children based on their capacity, based on who they are, not who the world tells them they're supposed to be. When my second daughter was learning 3-digit by 2-digit multiplication, it was the funniest thing. She could do 2-digit by 2-digit, no problem. But as soon as that third digit entered in the picture, whether it was psychological or whatever, it was super overwhelming to her. There was just something about those extra steps that was super overwhelming to her. So I realized I could sit there and be like, you know what you're doing. You did it well yesterday. Well, it's okay if they learned it yesterday. But if they're anxious and overwhelmed, they can't retrieve that information. So what I did is I was like, okay, my goal is for her to learn the concept, use the skills to get the correct answer, and be able to do it again for quite some time. We would just say, for the next 10 minutes, we're going to do this. We're probably going to work on about 2 problems, maybe 3. We're going to work on 3 problems. Very intentionally, very deliberately, without stress. And we would do that for like a week on this one concept. She was like, she was able to understand it. She was able to get at it. Now she can do many, many more problems than just 2 at a time. But if we do that fire hose approach to education on children, we teach our kids the wrong message. And then they hear, I'm so stupid. Why can't I do this like this person? I'm trying so hard. I want to. Our kids want to please us. If our children didn't have to take 5 hours to do 20 math problems, they wouldn't. They want to go play with their friends, or they want to go spend time with you and have fun. They don't want to disappoint us. All that to say, small chunks over time yield fruit. Step by step, step by step. That's how we teach our kids. You look at the child you have, and you provide them with what they need to succeed. And eventually, those 2 problems per 10 minutes become 4 problems. Then they become 5 problems. And then later, when they need to apply that to algebra, they already have it because they did it very intentionally over time. Where people say, how do you eat an elephant? 1 bite at a time. How do you teach a kid to succeed in math? 1 problem at a time. Not 50, 1 problem at a time. I hope that encourages some mom out there who knows this is not serving her child well. Remember, God gave you that child on purpose. Your kids were counting on you to go to bat for them. And that's why I created aheartforallstudents.com. That's why I created the private community. If you ever need more encouragement, please go to www.aheartforallstudents.com. If you need more tools and strategies of how to navigate your neurodiverse child, if your child has ADHD, autism, anxiety, learning differences, I don't care if there's a diagnosis or not. If you are struggling to parent the child that God has given you, reach out. I offer individualized homeschool coaching, and I just walk alongside that mama who wants to do the best for her unique outside-the-box kid. If you like this video, please share with somebody else and like and subscribe at the bottom. Thanks, friends. Reach out to me anytime. Go to www.heartforallstudents.com. Bye.